Welcome to the Babbles Nonsense podcast, where I'm your host, Jonna Grimes, and we're here to discuss any and all things, but especially the shit that I want to talk about. Because let's face it, I have a lot of shit to say, and after all, you are listening to my verbal diary. Let's get started. Wow, okay. So we'll get started then before we just give everything away initially, because I wanted to have you on the podcast because I think what you're doing is really cool. It's called One Human Coalition, and is that correct? Family Coalition.
One Human Family Coalition.
Yeah. And so you are a nonprofit organization that kind of helps disaster relief. If I'm correct me if I mess up anything.
It started with disaster relief, and
Okay.
now we've launched the first nurse volunteer program that's been here in Puerto Rico. So now we rotate nurses year round, every month of the year, to come down and help communities. And we have a local volunteer program here too that provides free home care supplies every weekend to a roster of patients in different communities.
Which is amazing. And I know a lot of my friends from the ER listen to my podcast. They're kind of like my biggest supporters. So what better way than to have nurses listen to what you do to maybe get the word out so we can get you some more volunteers down there and get you some more help if you need it.
Yeah, definitely.
So I met Corey in Nashville. It was literally my last night. My friend Mal and Megan came to celebrate my last night in Nashville, and you were playing in your band in Nashville at a bar, and we met. And then this was not a thing when we knew each other. How did this come about? Like, what were you doing before? Because you were just in Nashville, and then what made you decide to create this company?
I never decided to create it. It actually was going on when we met.
Okay.
But it was pretty different. And it was never anything I decided to create. I got involved in disaster relief after Hurricane Irma because I lived in the Florida Keys for a while, and Hurricane Irma landed on the community where I was living about maybe 8 months after I moved out. So I got involved in coordinating disaster relief operations in the Keys, and then Hurricane Maria was 10 days later in Puerto Rico, and I got asked to help. And 2.5 weeks later, some teams I sent down together, we opened up a free clinic that operated for 8 months. And in those 8 months, the mayor of a town called Quebradillas, where our clinic was, asked me to turn the name I used to keep everybody on the same team into an organization. And it slowly grew and changed from then.
That's awesome. That's so amazing that obviously you were volunteering and then you just built this brand, but how has it slowly evolved since the hurricanes? Was it 2017? Was that correct?
Yes, it was September of 2017 when the hurricanes hit, and stumbled into this clinic in Puerto Rico. Next thing I knew, I was in Puerto Rico running this clinic. But in June of 2018, the Department of Health or the government of Puerto Rico lifted the state of emergency. And so I came back to Nashville, and there wasn't really anything going on. Well, about 4 months later, I called a friend of mine who helped me run the clinic. He's a local down here. And part of our operations for the clinic was going out to the communities and not just waiting for people to come to us. And he told me he had been visiting everybody that we had been working with just on his own, just going out and at least saying hi and keeping up with the people. And I thought, okay, well, I need to do something to give you some support. And at that time, a group that had come down when we had the clinic reached out to me and said, "Hey, are you still doing it? Can we come down?" We didn't have the clinic at the time, but I said, "Okay, yeah, come on down." And brought them down. And that was the first group, and that was in January of 2019. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like I know I keep saying, like, I'll message you occasionally. Sorry, my dog is being crazy. She wants up here. I know I keep saying I want to do it, and I really do. It's just so how does that work with nurses volunteering to your program? Like, obviously I'm licensed in Alabama. I'm not licensed in Puerto Rico. So if it's not a state of emergency, how do I volunteer and my license be protected? I know that's one of the questions a lot of people ask me when I've talked about this program at work. They're like, well, how does that work? Like licensing and things like that.
That's a great question. And in fact, I was trying to get permission after the emergency was lifted for, our volunteers to practice medicine. The Department of Health said, no, no, no. And I gave them all kinds of reasons. I said, no, no, no. So we do everything except for do things that fall under practicing medicine. So it's primarily educational. And we also deliver supplies.
Okay.
So when our volunteers come down, we go into the communities, into the homes of the people that we've been working with for several years. And we provide health education to them. We can't puncture the skin of anybody. We can't diagnose anybody, but we can provide a lot of education. We can go ahead and do a small, simple examination just to see if there's anything that needs immediate attention. And then we can connect that person to their provider or to somebody that can help them. But it's primarily education, and the visits alone do a lot for their mental health as well. Because the people we visit, they're very isolated. We go to very isolated parts of Puerto Rico.
Which is, obviously key, because we know that prevention is key. So if you can catch it beforehand, or if they don't know that they need to seek help because of something, they think that they could fix it at home, then obviously that's where you kind of bridge the gap with the provider and then the nurses. Because nursing has knowledge to say, oh, this skin wound needs medical attention, where they think that they can maybe fix it at home, kind of thing.
Yes, that given whatever conditions they may have, but also educating them on healthy living and also a healthy patient provider relationship. It's very different here in Puerto Rico. There's a lot of reasons why people don't get the care they need, even though they have access to it. But there's a lot of reasons. Some fall on them, some fall on the system and the providers. And so we're trying to act as that. We want to connect the patient and the providers. We want to help create a better relationship, so the people know how to get the care, what questions to ask their providers, what they should be doing if they see these signs or those signs, and what they can do, and whatnot. So try to really be that connection between the system that's set up here and the patients.
I don't know if you're allowed to talk about this. Just tell me if you can't. But what differences have you seen in the medical system there versus the U.S.? Because I know the U.S. is very privileged when it comes to medical care, and they don't realize that they are. I know things are expensive here, and insurance or whatever, but you could still walk into an emergency room and you're going to get treated here. And people do that all day long, every day. That's where I work. So do you see a difference there where are they encouraged to go? Are they like, is it, I know you're educating, but I don't know if I'm asking this question correctly. What's the biggest difference, I guess, you see there in their medical system versus ours?
One, people seem to be very hesitant, first of all. It could be a number of things, but they seem very hesitant. And people, especially in isolated communities, will wait until they're in a severe condition before they go anywhere. So that's one major difference, where in the States, oh my gosh, I have a cough, I'm going to the doctor,
Yeah.
But, and also transportation, scheduling, follow-up appointments, all these things work very differently than in the States. We had our local volunteers out the other day, and we saw a woman who was trying to schedule an appointment for herself to get something done. And now it's been 3 weeks later, and she hasn't heard back from anybody. So, and also recently, a member of our organization recently passed away, unfortunately. But when he first went to the doctors to have something checked, they said, "Oh, no, we'll check you after the new year." And the new year was a month and a half away. And he said, "No, I need to get looked." "Oh, no. We'll just look at you after the new year." And he got worse and worse and worse. And then after the new year, he goes in, had an operation, had some complications, and he went back into the hospital. And a week later, he came out and he was skin and bones. And he said, "They're just going to let me die in there." So there seems to be a tendency to, for lack of better terms, write people off if they're at a certain place. And we see that a lot. Actually, there's quite a few people that say they've been written off by the doctors. They can't get any help whatsoever. Some of the people that we serve. So,
that's the biggest difference. Yeah.
That's a big issue. Yes.
And I would assume that would probably happen here in the United States if doctors weren't afraid of being sued. I don't know how it works in Puerto Rico, but like I know that some practice medicine in the fear of I didn't do enough and I'm going to get sued, which I know isn't the right thing to do. But I know that, I mean, we have great doctors. I'm not going to say that we don't, but I know that some practice in the fear of I have to do this, even though I don't want to, because they'll sue me if I don't. So I don't know if that's a big difference because I don't know how the legal system is there, but I know the legal system obviously plays a big part. The government plays a big part in our healthcare system, unfortunately, but it is what it is. So that could be a difference. So go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, and there's also an issue with doctors leaving the island. A lot of providers leaving the island, going to the States. However, there's an issue with, when the doctors do leave the island, go to the States, they can still get paid for all of their patients, even though they don't see them.
Seriously?
Yes. So that is, it's like the incentives are in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So that was a big issue after Maria. Doctors just left, but they continue to get paid for all their patients, even though patients would go and lights would be on, but the door would be locked,
So there's no such thing as patient abandonment there?
Not that I have heard.
Okay.
I'm not, I guess I should say I'm not a healthcare professional whatsoever. So patient abandonment is something I know nothing about, but I have not heard that phrase.
So what that is here. So if like a family physician decides they want to retire or quit, they have to give all of their patients so many months notice to find another provider, or it's considered patient abandonment. Like if they just say, well, I'm retiring tomorrow, I decided I just can't do this no more. Like they have to give their patients enough time to find another provider to continue care.
That's nothing I've heard about down here. Everything I've heard about is, they leave and they keep getting paid. And another thing with down here is everybody has independent practices. So you go to one office where your provider is, but you need to see a specialist. You need to see this person, that person. Well, then he has to schedule something. And I already mentioned the issues with scheduling appointments and stuff, but then you can't go to your community. You have to go 3 hours away. And it's hard enough to leave your isolated community just to drive maybe 40 minutes to get to that appointment. And now you got to go 3 hours and hope that the appointment gets scheduled. So it's a whole lot of independent practices where in the States, you'll have a firm. And if the doctor says, well, okay, well, I can't help you, but we have another doctor here in this office. And so I'm going to recommend you to him. That's what somebody was telling me about the other day. So that's a problem.
Do you think it'll ever come to the point where, like, let's say doctors want to volunteer? Like I know a lot of physicians. I know one in particular, particularly that would love to volunteer down there. He is bilingual. He works in the ER. He does a lot of stuff in Panama as well. But would he be able to treat there? Or is that something the government still like, no?
No, we still can't. We can't do much treating. There's some people on our side that are, that are vouching for us, and they want to get that permission to where we can do more. I think the Department of Health is. They say to us, well, we have doctors. Why do you need doctors to come down and do stuff? That's kind of their thing. But so right now we can't do much in the way of treating people.
Okay.
So we've had doctors come down in the past. Some doctors come down expecting to be in a clinical setting, like you may see in other countries where it's just patient after patient after patient. You get to do this and that. But this is very different than that, at least right now.
Okay. So on a day-to-day, so let's say tomorrow, what would a schedule look like for a day-to-day, like what you would do?
Yeah. Well, first of all of our volunteers, we have a home here. It's a beautiful home. And we have vehicles. So that's all taken care of. And then each morning you have the option of a sunrise yoga, where a local yoga instructor right here in town comes to the house. While you are doing yoga in the morning, a local breakfast chef comes to the house and is cooking breakfast in the morning.
Oh, cool.
And then around 9 or 9:30 a.m. is where we head out to community to rendezvous with local community leaders, or the municipality of that community. We always work through locals. We don't go anywhere by ourselves. And then from there, we'll go home to home to each person, and it's all been set up beforehand. So we usually bring down groups of 8 at most, and then we'll split them up into 2, 3, or 4 teams, depending on the community we're in. and we go with the local leaders, and the local leaders take the teams to the different houses, and we work until about 4 p.m. And then after that, we facilitate the rest of the day too. So we take you out to dinner, we take you to the beaches. We think it's really important to not just come down and help the community, but to become a part of it. And we facilitate every aspect of it. So the main activities is 1, the home visits, 2, grade school education. We work with a couple grade schools in the center of the island, top of the mountain type of place,
cool.
like very, very isolated. And we've been going to these schools for 3 years now, and we always go to them and provide education to the students. And then the third activity that could happen on any given day is working with other nonprofits on the island and assisting them with anything that they need.
That's awesome. Is there a language barrier when you do that? Like, do you have a translator, or do they speak English?
Oh yeah, we have translators.
Okay.
We have enough translators for everybody. So when we meet with community leaders, we have drivers for all of our vehicles. We have translators with us, and we may end up meeting with 8, 9, or 10 locals to take us out and to translate and to help bridge that gap.
Well, how's your Spanish now? Like, can you, or maybe not, is it Spanish, or is it, Portuguese?
No, it's Spanish.
Okay.
It's Spanish.
Nobody
I would
laugh
say
at me
that,
for saying that.
I would say, I have no excuse. It's been almost 4 years and I have no excuse, but I will say my charades is much better than my Spanish. So, the people down here love to use their hands and facial expressions and stuff when they talk. So that helps me out a little bit, but my Spanish, it's getting better. Poco a poco, little by little, it's getting there.
I mean, I really have no excuse either. And we have a very large Hispanic population here in Alabama. And I keep saying I'm going to learn, and I just haven't. And I've worked in the same ER for 10 years. So it's bad. It's bad. But how can people sign up for this program? Especially, is it just nurse volunteers right now? Or are you wanting doctors? Who all are you wanting to volunteer for this program?
Anybody can come down.
Okay.
But we try to make it we've tried to focus on nurses because it's very much an exercise in human relations. And we discuss that a lot. And how to listen and how to talk with people, and more importantly, how to get them talking, So, anybody can come down, doctors, physicians, nurses can come down, but that's what it is. And if anybody wants to sign up at onehumafamilycoalition.org, you can read all about the program, all about all of the perks, like the yoga and the beaches and everything, and what we do. It's all on our website. You can register there. Now we put out dates. Right now we're working on 1 group a month, and we have June through October booked right now. Wow. And as it gets a little bit more sustainable, I guess, then we're going to, up it to 2 groups per month. So when you do register, you'll be on a list. And then when we put out a new date, we'll send that date out to everybody that's registered for people to join.
Do they come down a week at a time? Is it like just one group comes for a week, or like 2 weeks, a month, or whatever the person wants to do?
Up to a week. To a week. So they would join a group. I mean, so anybody can form their own group. If you have 6, 7 friends, then that could come down. Otherwise, you'll join 6 or 7 others that you'll meet when you get here to Puerto Rico. Either way, but you come down for about a week, and you're also able to schedule 1 day off to just enjoy the island. And we have lots of activities set up with local partners, with horseback riding and zip lining and hiking and all kinds of things. Because like I said, it's important to be a part of the community. Yeah. And you really are a part of the community when you come down here. You get to meet a lot of people, and the purpose of that is hopefully the next time you come, whether you just want to come vacation or volunteer again, you're coming into a community where you're welcomed. You're coming and you're already a part of this community. You're not a stranger coming into it.
That's something I was going to ask, because I know some countries are like, why are you coming into my country? You're American, trying to help me. But they're very open to the idea, I'm assuming. It's pretty safe.
Oh, 100%. The mayor of Caber Diaz here is a big fan of everything we're doing. The whole municipality is. just about everybody on the police force down here knows us. All the business owners know us, and you get to meet a lot of these people. A couple of our groups in 2019 before the pandemic got to hang out with the mayor and all of his people, cool. For a night. One of our groups was here for a big holiday celebration in January, and the mayor invited us to be a part of this. It was a parade. It was like a big Christmas parade kind of thing. And it went all night long, and we were part of the parade. We stopped in different communities, hand out toys, and have some drinks, have some food. And it went. Let's see, it started at we joined about 8 p.m. and the last stop of this parade was until like 4:30 a.m.
Wow!
And the group just had a blast. Every stop you make, like I said, it was a big party. It was a big holiday thing. So yeah, we're very, very much a part of the community, and it's really cool. You get to meet a lot of locals, a lot of different business owners, a lot of just a lot of people that that just become our friends.
That's amazing. But you mentioned the pandemic. How has it changed anything that you can do, or like did y'all not have any groups in 2020 go down? How is the pandemic there, like COVID?
We had the one group in 2020 in January before the pandemic, and they had earthquakes, so we provided disaster relief.
Okay.
So it was that was a fun one. But then when the pandemic hit, we didn't bring any more groups down in 2020. So I came down here. I moved down here last year, and we got the local volunteer program, which we had been thinking about for a long time. We got that up and running. So every Saturday, locals join up with us, and we go out into the community here in Cape Verdeas, and we provide 3 things. And this is also a big gap. It's adult diapers, adult wipes, and bed pads. The people that do need to use these, the elderly, the bedridden, it's one of the most consistent things they need, and one of the most expensive things they need. And insurance and Medicare doesn't cover this stuff. So the normally $25 bag of diapers that they would need to get, we get them all at cost through we partnered with First Quality Products, and so we get them all super cheap, really at cost. So all of our local volunteers get together on Saturdays, and we take these supplies out, and we just kind of hang out with the patients for a little while at each visit too.
That's very rewarding, I would assume too. What were you doing before this job in Nashville? Like, what was your job there?
My job was playing music, just like you saw I met you on Broadway.
Yeah.
Right. And just performing on Broadway with Chris Ferrara. If anybody wants to look him up, great artist. But primarily working for Chris That's Ferrara, awesome. And performing on Broadway and traveling. No, missing something requires looking into the past.
That's true. Okay. Good advice there.
And how all of this started, I didn't try to go into disaster relief. I moved back to St. Louis when the hurricane hit the Florida Keys, and I still had my hurricane reentry sticker from living there. I said, I'm going to drive down and help my friends. And before I could drive down, a military man recruited me he asked me to be a strike team coordinator. And that's a phrase I'd never even heard before. But he asked me to stay back and help coordinate his team that was going to go in. And 2 days later, I found myself coordinating all of the operations for the Keys, planes, trucks, boats, manpower. It was wild. And at that time, that was the first time in my life where I put my hands up in the air and I said, okay, I have no idea what all this is about, but wherever this goes, I'm going with it. And, now we're 4 years later, I still got my hands up.
That is amazing, because they say you'll never work a day in your life if you love what you do. So do you play music for them down there?
Like I said, I just got down here, but I'm going to have my first show coming up here in a couple of weeks. So I'm about to get my own shows happening down here. That's awesome.
That'll be fun. Yes. So are you a permanent resident now?
An indefinite resident, I would say. Like I said, my hands are up. So wherever my life leads me, So at the moment I am. And a big goal for mine is this organization that I was asked to make. I'm focused on making it's for the people. I mean, the people here have built it because they believed in it. It hasn't been me. And as it grows and as it gets sustainable and starts to scale, I want it to be for the people. I want the locals to be running it and doing it, for themselves. And so I can manage it for them, because this is their organization. It's not mine. It's not mine. This is an organization for the people.
That's amazing. And I definitely need to sign up. I've been scared. Like, I've lived my life in fear of like, well, what if, but now like over the past year, it's kind of like, you just need to just, like you said, go where life takes you. If it's fun, it's fun. If it's a disaster, it's a disaster. I interviewed Case Kenny last Friday. He's a podcast guru, but he always talks about your failures aren't really failures. They're just life points and pivotal points. You just look at them for whatever. And so I was like, oh, okay. That's what I need to start doing. So I need to definitely sign up for that. And I know a bunch of people from the ER would love that for sure. There's a bunch of people that volunteer at other, I know one girl goes to Haiti every year and volunteers. So she would love it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Life is all a matter of perspective. What somebody sees as fear, another person sees as excitement, and it can be the same exact thing. So, same thing with failures. You can see them as failures. You can see them as learning experiences. It's really just all a matter of perspective.
Well, Corey, thank you so much for doing this. And can you tell everyone, like, if they can't volunteer there, is there any other way that they could help your organization?
Yeah. We try to ask people to sign up to donate just $5 a month. $5 a month provides one pack of diapers to one person every month. And another thing I haven't mentioned is we resupply everybody at least every 2 weeks. The goal is that they never have to pay for these supplies again.
Yeah.
So, and then $10 a month provides a whole package, the diapers, the wipes, and the pads for somebody every month. And you can do that. You can see it on our website, onehumanfamilycoalition.org.
And then they can also find you on Instagram too, right?
You can find us on Instagram, and also we have some friends on Instagram who have decided to work with us. They are called the Twin Diaries on Instagram. They're Sana Milana.
I literally just started following them.
And Shauna Milana, yeah. So actually, they arrived. They're coming here Friday with their manager because they've decided to start working with us and help us get more groups. So they're coming down just to kind of see Puerto Rico, and I want to introduce them to the people and everything. And then they come down with their first group in June. Wow,
that is awesome. Congratulations. You're just blowing up.
It's
slowly but surely.
It's coming along. In the beginning of this, my focus was the work, and my heart was really in it, but I realized pretty quickly that you can't do anything with money. So I had to kind of change my focus, even though it's a nonprofit and it's all about the work. I had to change my focus to the money, because without money you can't do anything. With money you can do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Yes.
But I think that's
Sana and Shauna Milana on Instagram. They're great.
But I think that people also need to realize that at the end of the day, healthcare, all of healthcare, no matter where it is a business. And I think that's one thing that people forget, even in the United States, because I hear it a lot, that they'll come into the ER and they'll say, well, I don't have to pay for this. Well, you do, because if you don't, someone is. And that's why there are a lot of hospitals also in the US going out of business pre-COVID, because if people are going in, draining their resources and not paying you, there's not all these organizations like you out there that can bail people out. So I think that's something that people need to understand is, like you said, without money, you can't just run on nothing. So
yeah, we were lucky in the beginning because of the disaster. There were a lot of people and a lot of supplies coming to the island, and they all had the same questions. Where do we go? How do we get there? And how do we keep our stuff from being stolen? And I was just blessed to be in a position where I could say, oh, I could help you, but you have to come to us, and pay for this. So that's how it started. But then, like I said, I changed my focus to money, and it's not the collection of money, it's the movement of money.
Yeah.
If you can move money, then you can do whatever you have in your heart or whatever you have in your mind. If you can make money move, you can make anything happen.
All right, guys. That is it for today's podcast. I want to thank Corey so much for talking about his organization and his business. And first time I've talked to you in like 3 years. Yes. I was like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? It's a way I can.
It was so great to hear from you too. one of our major partners here on the island is one of the largest foundations here in Puerto Rico. They're a huge nonprofit. And I met the COO on Broadway. She was jumping in front of the stage right where I met you at Whiskey Row. She's like, "Oh, I'm from Puerto Rico." She saw my shirt. Now we partnered in the disaster after the earthquakes, and now they're helping us out a lot with all these groups coming down.
Nashville's just a great hub.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
All right, Corey, I'm going to end this recording and then I'll talk to you. Well, that's it for the podcast today, guys. I hope you learned a lot from him. And yeah, go check out his page at onehumanfamilycoalition.com. And if you are a nurse listening to this and you want to sign up, feel free to do that as well. And look in the show notes if you want to see all his Instagram, website, everything like that. Until next time, guys. Bye.